My game-based approach was very direct in what I was trying to present to you guys here this evening. I was very lucky a number of years ago, around 2010-11, when I got involved with the Sigerson teams in DCU with Niall Moyna and Tony Diamond. And we were left one evening up in St Vincent's GAA club with a bag of 24 footballers, or a bag of 24 footballs and 7 footballers. And we looked at the bag of balls and we said, well, that's an awful lot of wasted leather football. And we looked at the footballers, and some of the players that were present that evening were Michael Murphy from Donegal, Paul Flynn from Dublin, and the likes of David Kelly from Sligo. So the quality was fairly high. And we started working with 2 footballs that evening. And we started on a simple base. We introduced a situation where the players started soloing right and left, and then they started hand passing right and left, and then they started kicking right and left, right? So that's where the game-based approach with the 2 footballs started. Now, I'll just I'll go back before I go forward again. I'm a PE teacher by trade. That's what I do during the day, and as a result of that, my philosophy around football has to try and always been to introduce a higher skill level, because I believe there's an awful lot of parts of the game you can't play if your skill set isn't high enough. So people talk about, well, we don't have particularly good forwards, or our defensive setup isn't good, or we don't have good kickers of the ball. Well, the answer to that is to go after the skill set and make it better, not to shy away from it. And there's no doubt about it, there's teams who are more mobile than others. But I'll give an example of this at the moment, and I hope I don't offend anyone by saying it. Kerry, for me, are still technically the best kickers of the ball in the game. For me, that's not everybody's taken it. And as a result of that, they've stayed in touch at senior level when they haven't produced the same numbers of footballers over the last decade as the likes of Dublin and Mayo. But because of their technical skills to kick the ball, they've stayed in the game. Now, I know Kerry's revolution at minor football is on the way, but at this point in time, that's why they are where they are. My challenge last year was with the Clare footballers, and it was interesting. I've met Paul Kinnerk for the first time this evening. As a young fellow, I was brought to Spancil Hill by my father, and I went through it 80 times last year, and 80 times I went back through it, and we never had a cup of coffee until this evening, so the GAA works in mysterious ways. There's the picture some of you might have seen on Twitter recently, and it's a shame in our game, nearly. If I put a picture up there of an under-14 footballer, it wouldn't strike you. But because Dermot Connolly, one of the best forwards in the game at the moment, has got 2 footballs in his hand, we'll look at it. And that routine became bread and butter for us in our warm-ups. We soloed the ball right, we soloed the ball left, we bounced right and soloed left, we bounced left and soloed right, we delivered right and we delivered left. And then we went after that skill set. And in fact, before the players came out prior to the All-Ireland final in 2013, they did a skill acquisition challenge in the dressing room. And what's fantastic about this, and I know Pat will be of this frame of mind, is that sometimes as coaches we forget that you can enjoy this. We think that at this level the enjoyment should disappear, and that is not the case. We had a group, obviously, at that point in time who were highly motivated and very zoned in on what they wanted to do. But part of them being ready for that challenge on that particular day was zoning in on their skill set in the warm-up area down below. To steal a line from a good friend of mine, John Morrison, defend like a Roman soldier. We went into other sports and we looked at things like basketball, and we looked at rugby, and we saw challenges in their games that we tried to bring into our own. And there's a YouTube clip which you'll see from Michael Jordan talking about defence. And as Philly McMahon said to us one day in training, I didn't know Michael Jordan came to watch us train. The basketballers for a long time have used the 2 balls and work off both sides of their body. Why wouldn't we? Why wouldn't we have a situation where we use 2 hands and 2 feet We're in a position where we can do it. And again, tomorrow with the longer opportunity, I'll show you scores in the game that you wouldn't believe the numbers of sides of the body that the players are starting to use. And obviously practice makes it better, and practice in the environment makes it even better still. So the challenges we set were high skill sets, repetition of those, at the pace of the game, in the environment that they were going to play in, and enjoyment. And I think it's really important, again, to emphasise that as coaches, because a lot of the time we leave it out. We think because we go into this arena at the higher level that part has to disappear. Of all the things that probably has to stay for the longevity of a team, it's enjoyment. And I would have to say at this point in time, if you look at the Dublin senior football team, I would still say enjoyment is part of the factor. Otherwise, they wouldn't be still wouldn't be performing at the level they are. Here's challenges. There's a free taken card that we set as a challenge, not as a test, as a challenge. So in any given night, and I'll tell a story that goes with this, we met up with Irish Rugby and a number of people out, so not to name names, and I met with a number of the kickers, and we were told that they kicked 150 kicks a week. And I sat back down thinking to myself, how was I going to get 150 kicks a week in with the Dublin senior football team and the free takers? We just started to introduce an 18-shot challenge. So we put it back down and we cut it down to 12 frees in any given training session, so that was 36 frees a week. A number of months after it, Jim came to me and said to me, we had that meeting and the rugby team were on 150 kicks a week. And I said, that's correct. And he said, how come we're only doing 36? And I asked, well, were you going to hang around for 150? So that's how we ended up with 36. And now, if you look at it, the players, we had convinced them that the limited number of frees to stay with a small number and make it match specific became that. So that's what we started with. So we were able to give back a percentage of what they scored from any area of the field. There's the scoring card. Some of you may have seen this. That's a scoring card that we set as a challenge with the 2 balls. So as you can see in the diagram, and again, it's on video form for tomorrow, any one player, and we had a situation whereby you had all your forwards working at one time at this. So if you take it a situation where you've got 16 players, 8 behind the goal and 8 working. So they start off in the diagram where the player is with 2 footballs. They come around the cones, 2 balls, one over the bar with their right foot back into the starting position, one over the bar with their left foot. So 2 players working at any one time. Back out, 13-metre line first, 20-metre line second, 27-metre line third, and out to the 33 or 34. 33 is top of the arc, 34 metres just outside it. That was a 6-shot challenge. Then we developed it into a dummy. So anywhere inside that area in the zone, match dummy, accelerate out of the dummy, and score off the side you didn't dummy on. And then we developed a situation where you had 6 shots from receiving the ball, starting at the 13-metre line from the 2 delivery men on the wings, receive the ball, and the challenge was within 3 seconds to turn, strike the ball over the bar. So they were scoring challenges that we developed, which became hugely part of the regular diet which we trained with. And from a player's point of view, player wants to be challenged, and they want to be tested in that environment. Paul talked about it in the small-sided games. We made that a realistic situation in games. Then we introduced the dummies into it, and then we introduced it back into modified games, and then we introduced it back into games. And we certainly saw the percentages increase. And again, from a player's perspective, we were able to give them feedback on what their scoring percentages were and from the distances that they were best. So that information obviously was crucial. The defenders, of course, got a little bit disappointed with it, so we made that a little card for them. And we introduced a tackling grid. And if you remember the old days where we were inside in a tackling grid and you had 4 people on the corner and you had 1 football, and the only thing the person could tackle was your back because they could never see the ball. Now with a situation where you're playing 2 footballs, the only thing they can tackle is the ball. So on the scorecard overhead, you can see better than I can because my eyesight can't see that anymore. So the scores were for near hand, shoulder, sternum, hip, and the negatives were for the opposite, so any of the fouls. So we were constantly going after the technique of the tackle rather than the outcome. So in any one exercise, with the player with the two balls, they were trying to touch the four sides of the grid. They mightn't necessarily have ever stripped the ball off them, but the player who was tackling got scores for different things. We then introduced a kicking exercise, and again with the two footballs. This exercise you see on the board is a long time around. I remember doing this exercise over 30 years ago, and we introduced it as a scoring card. So we went after the three types of kicks: the punt kick, the instep kick, and the outstep kick. But they were doing it with two balls. So strike with one foot, land running, and strike with the other foot. And that was happening from both sides of the grid. That's my game-based approach. I was very specific in what I was trying to introduce, which you hear this evening. In my time in 27 years of coaching, folks, I haven't come across anything, for me personally as a coach, that has helped me develop people's skills as much as this has. I hope that the idea will even stimulate something in your thought process. For the players that I've worked with, I know they've benefited from, but more importantly, they've enjoyed from it. We'll see you more tomorrow. Thank you.